Hey, we're live, so hopefully everyone is rejoining our call, our show already in progress. Instagram is being kind, and they are telling you people, and we're seeing some folks in. We got What You're Reading joining. Hey, Chuck, how are you? We've got My Eyes Are So Bad, but I think it's Metabolus, number 3, so... Hi to you as well as the other two. There's Dan. So I'm going to bring Dan in. And we are...
If this is your first time joining, you missed all of the little technical issues we were having just before. Hi, Dan.
Hey. Just a quick question for the folks that are listening on the stream. Before I joined, Eric, his audio sounded really choppy and robot-y, but once I joined, it sounded great. Does the audio sound okay to you folks listening? Not that it matters, because the podcast will be different.
No, I hear you sound like a Cyberman. So is that still the case?
Of us. You sound awesome to me right now. Like a dream.
All right. It sounds like it's cleared up. So it was just the process of adjusting to the level of awesome. And then once you bring Dan into any situation, people
it just gets better. Thanks.
People get a little bit robotic. How are you doing, Dan?
I'm great. I'm going to set a little timer here so we know when our hour is about up.
Okay.
Because we're gonna be constrained to about an hour for this one.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to jump right into it. This is the old Doctor Who show.
That's funny that it shows up reversed.
Yeah, your classic Doctor Who review podcast in tri-weekly segments
form.
Or
yes.
In what's the word? Interims? That's not right.
Sure.
Dan, it's fine. Dan, you're looking fantastic. How have you been these last 3 weeks?
This is nothing but grain alcohol, so I'm feeling great.
I was thinking about drinking, but instead I'm drinking coffee.
Yeah, no.
And I actually made a joke about wearing a cape, and I have a cape, and I was going to wear a cape, and it must be somewhere upstairs with the Halloween stuff.
Or
I have like a
one
silver...
of your children is wearing it.
Did I wear it? I think I wore it for our 50th. Because we did this once before, and it's like I wanted to look like Rick Wakeman for some stupid sketch, and it's like a silver. Who's Rick Wake? Come on, silver crushed velvet cake with like a hood that I bought. I bought off some woman that was like making clothes for Renaissance fairs or something. So I was going to wear. So I guess that's I'm letting you know what you could have seen.
Well, I'm so glad you painted such a vivid mind picture.
Yeah, I think I wore it for the 50, so I got to do something different, so I did nothing.
So there's a question already in the comments here. How do you get one of those stickers? Eric, how does someone get one of those stickers?
Yeah, and we also have this is a Gregory Suicide sticker. You can write a self-addressed stamped envelope anywhere in the world, wherever you are. Just make sure it's a self-addressed stamped envelope, and it would pay for postage from the U.S. to wherever you are. You can send that to the Old Doctor Who Show, P.O. Box 2131.
Yes, that's the same one I was thinking. 2131.
Yeah, 2131, Red Bank, New Jersey, 07701. So if you just go to the mail, and it's good to support the U.S. Postal Service anyway, fill that out and get them.
Times, people.
Yeah, we're having some hard times. America is literally on fire. Yeah, see, Rick Wakeman, keyboard wizard. People are aware of it. He was always wearing capes, and like I missed that part of the 70s and like the music where songs were 14 minutes long and they're always about ice wizards and dragons, and it's all fine.
It feels like it's due for like a comeback, a renaissance, if you will.
Yeah.
So
people love the prog rock, but should we get into it because we only have
so much time
to go.
So
what we'll do is, I think it's kind of what we did last time. So the first hour of this, because that's all Instagram will give us, we'll do a review, and then we will jump back on for a second part if anyone wants to ask any questions. I know we have we do like a Q&A or feedback of what you thought of the movie or whatever, and that way we can sort of cover both. So the first half, the first hour will be the review, and then we'll come back. So hopefully you can all stay.
Yes. And feel free to chat amongst yourselves while you're there.
Yeah, you can chat. I can't read anything
here. I can't read anything. I can't respond while I'm doing this because it just doesn't work for me. But the most important thing we could do right now is hit the button, right?
Yeah, hit the button. Let's hit the button. And I know Dan had already reached out on Twitter about getting some people to send in sound effects of the, we always make our whoops and our stuff. If you have any, we've gotten some already.
Yes.
I'll edit them into the next, like this episode when it goes out on the podcast. So
you can always send them to us. Do it as a voice memo and send it to us on email at theolddoctorwhoshow@gmail.com, or you could send it to us on Twitter with a direct message. Yeah, you can do whatever you want, but send it to us.
Just show up at our house and just boombox it over your head.
Just with sound effects.
Yeah,
like
a little
this.
say anything. Dan's also I like Dan is texting me while this is going on, like you are recording, right? Because we're also recording in GarageBand, and it's not out of our realm of possibility that I wasn't, but I am, Dan.
It has happened once before. Never again. Never forget.
Yes. So we are good to go. So why don't you hit that
button,
Dan, and we'll take us through. Yeah, my sweet baby. Why is it bigger on the inside, Dad? All right, so this is the old Doctor Who show. We are reviewing Doctor Who and the Daleks, which is a film from 1965. Lucky number 65. It's directed by Gordon Fleming. You see this work and you're like, Gordon. That's his stuff. And this is adapted by Milton I think it's an autocorrect thing happening here, but his name may be Subotsky. It says written by, but this was not written by. This was adapted from the 1963 The Daleks story written by Terry Nation. Speaking of which,
adapted.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was closer to it than I thought it was going to be.
Same here.
So what happens in this movie, Dan, that you're probably asking yourself? Well, the Who family, Grandpa Who, and his granddaughter, little Susie Who, and Barbara Who,
Barbie Who,
their parents clearly were murdered. It's not.
Who are their parents? The real question is who are they?
Who are they? Who? Barbara has a gentleman caller that arrives. It's old, super clumsy Ian. Old Ian. And after a tour of the TARDIS, because when your gentleman caller comes over, you got to go in the yard and go through Grandpa's little cabinet, see his little trinkets and mysteries, and he can show you where the bodies are.
The 60s.
Ian, I said he was clumsy. He accidentally bumps into a switch, and before you know it, they're going to another planet. They end up on Skaro in a petrified forest where the Doctor pretends that the TARDIS is broken, putting everyone in danger just so he could tour the mysterious city in the distance. And it turns out it's not an abandoned city. It's inhabited by Daleks and the spiders from Mars, who live in a little town off to the side where everyone has the same color hair.
That's true.
Nice. There are swamps. There's canyon jumpings. Who are we kidding? We've already talked about this. We did all of this already in the story of the Daleks, except this time it's in color.
Yep.
So what did you think, Dan, of the movie, the film, rather, for you snobs, Doctor Who and the Daleks?
I was pleasantly surprised. I thought this was going to be a fun, campy sort of strange take on Doctor Who, and I was
wasn't.
Right. No, it was a serious drama about the existential concerns of life and death. It was fun. I guess we'll come back to the things that separate it from traditional canon of Doctor Who and the choices they made that are different about it. But leaving those things aside for the moment, it was a good story. I was wondering what I would have thought had I just come across this without ever having seen Doctor Who, just as it's on its own terms. And it was a fun adventure story. Like, it felt very much like somewhere above a B movie. Like, it did call to mind certain parts of it, like This Island Earth or something like that.
Yeah,
It had those moments, but, somewhat higher quality. I think the overall story is, even though it's somewhat different, is just as fun as the TV story. The characterizations are fun. The takes are different. Like, and I'm trying to resist jumping into those right away. But it's nice to see a story like this told with somewhat more money, more time put into it, bigger budget is always nice. And just to see the differences around the interpretations of the characters that we've come to know. Overall, it was a lot of fun. It was as much fun as I thought it was going to be, which I kind of had a pretty high bar after just having seen stills and the trailer.
Yeah, the trailer kind of puts you in that like
totally ready for
60s. You're ready to drop some acid or something and watch it.
Well, I'm always dropping acid.
Yeah, so, well, that's Eric, was happening anyway.
Without getting too far into it as well, what was your overall take on
it? I thought it was fine. I will say going into it, I did not know that it was the same Dalek story we had already done.
I didn't either.
I was like, Doctor Who and the Daleks, it's going to be a different take on. Yep. You always hear this is not in canon or whatever, so you never see. And now it makes sense because it's literally they just did the same exact story, so it couldn't be in canon anyway. Right. It's literally the same characters. They did some tweaks. I thought some of the changes they made were better. I think having her as a Susan as a little girl actually makes a lot more sense than the Susan that we got. And nothing against Susan. We talked about this, but I like Susan when she's the swinging, mysterious, weird chick that you get in the first episode in Unearthly Child. But you never
the best Susan.
Yeah, you never get that again. So with her, actually this little Susan seems to be more together. She's much more determined. Yeah. She's not as afraid of everything. I thought that was good. Having them all related, like Barbara and Ian. A big age difference between the two, but having them as a family unit sort of worked too. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I didn't mind the Doctor being sort of, it's kind of weird the way that they did this Doctor, because he's sort of lighthearted fun dude in the beginning, because you see everyone's reading a science textbook.
Yeah.
And the first introduction you get if you're reading a comic, which is comics are for stupid people, and then you're shaking your fist at the screen. But that was okay. But then I don't know if not that he was not fun, but he was sort of, I don't know how to really put it, but they didn't. The Doctor that was having fun reading the comic in the beginning wasn't necessarily the one that sort of played through the rest of the film.
Right.
And the things that they did change, I said I liked, but the stuff they kept, I'm surprised they kept the Doctor deciding that he wants to see the city, so he says it's broken. They kept all of that, and that was the part that makes the Doctor sort of unlikable. But in any case, I thought it was good. I thought it was fun. It was way more slapsticky. Than I was expecting. So that's the one change we weren't really talking about yet. Is especially with Ian. Ian is the biggest change. He's a big goofball, and he's rolling into things, and he's falling, and he's doing
I guess
weird double takes.
The difference between Susan and Susie, the little girl, is probably maybe the biggest change, because she's in my estimation of this, she's kind of the hero of this. She's the one with all the bravery, decides to go off and
she's the one that goes back, which is how it plays out in the original too, right? From what I remember. Right.
But it's the way that for that little self-possessed kid was fantastic. But Ian is the one that is the biggest change. So, like you had said, the relationship is totally different now. We have Barbara and Susan are siblings, and Ian is her gentleman caller instead of them being teachers. But he's totally doing this kind of low-rent Dick Van Dyke.
Yes.
Take,
yeah.
Which I really didn't like at first. I really didn't like that choice and the way that he was actually going about it at first. But as it went on, I thought it just got better and better. Maybe it was just my own perception of it and my expectations of what I wanted Ian to be, and they went something in a different direction. But he sold it towards the end, and it was just a lot of wah wah when he fell into the lever and set them flying and all.
Right. Yeah. Hair of the Hound just said that Doctor Who sends children into the woods to get drugs from strangers, and that's pretty much right on.
Okay, but also since we're looking comments here, so the fact, and every time it happened, it just made me want to scream. Every time Ian referred to the Doctor as Doctor Who.
Doctor Who, yeah.
So that is his surname. His surname
they're
is
the Who's.
They're the Who family.
They're 100%
Who, Barbara Who, and Doctor Who.
When I first saw it too, because the age difference is so different, I thought that Barbara was the daughter, and then Susan was the granddaughter. But then I was like, that's kind of weird without a husband, and that's a little racy for 65, the time.
Yeah.
And then at one point they referred to as my sister, so it was a little strange. But yeah, they're all the Who's. It's the big Who family in the Whoville. Yeah. And it was so Peter Cushing. I generally like Peter Cushing. Too. I like him in all the Hammer horror films, and obviously Grand Moff Tarkin from Star Wars. But it was really weird to see him so young. And as soon as I saw him, I just got Roger Sterling from Mad Men in my head, and like I just kept imagining that this was just some Mad Men outtake or something.
Oh, that's amazing.
It was weird. I haven't seen him really like this before.
It was a nice interpretation. It was, like you said, lighter at the beginning when there are no stakes. He's just there, and he puts the chocolates down, and Ian sits on them, and he's all excited to show him this invention that he's made. They don't actually, I guess it doesn't matter. Like, I'm not going to try to tear this thing apart because it was just silly and fun. But
Speaking of silly and fun, how fun was it when the Doctor, his plan, like at one point, was to kidnap the guy's girlfriend to push him into violence. Well, and then Ian gets punched right in the face as part of it. Like, Ian, I don't know. It's just like, oh no, Ian, it's cool. He's like winking at him, and then he just gets knocked the F out.
Hammered.
And then he's like out, and then they're friends. But it's like the Doctor is such a jerk. He caused all this stuff, and then he's like, oh no, it's cool.
Just right. I mean, to your point before, like it is once they get onto the planet, the Skaro, that he becomes more like the Hartnell Doctor.
Well,
it's just a necessity of the story because they decided to keep so much.
I think you're 100% right, because I feel like the story is written for a curmudgeonly old pain in the ass, and they kept those beats and they kept those story moments. But then when Cushing or whoever was making the choice to do it in a more goofy way, like the two of them, like
in the beginning especially,
like don't necessarily always jive. It doesn't always work out.
Yeah. But it was, he, as you said, Doctor Who, that kills me. Doctor Who decides to take Ian out to show him his invention while Barbie's getting all pretty upstairs. And for some reason, unexplained, he keeps the police box.
Do you think
built?
Do you think Barbie is upstairs getting pretty, and then the camera just pans off, and their like parents are just like dead in the corner, but it's like out of Psycho, like they're all just propped by the window?
It's more like Weird Science when the grandparents get frozen into the cabinet, and they're just there until they. So he takes them out. So they have the police box. I do appreciate that they have the necessary beat that we get in all later Doctor Who stories when you have a new companion encountering the TARDIS for the first time, and they do the walk around, and it's bigger on the inside.
What?
It was fun. It was. Especially since you're doing this for, I'm guessing, this is 65, so 2 years after the Doctor Who has started. So we're somewhere in the second or third season of the show. It's becoming huge, but many people, this will be their first and maybe only experience of Doctor Who. So you get to have that big moment, which is really fun. You get to see him, wandering around the console room in the TARDIS being a completely different thing.
I was going to ask you about that when you said it'd be people's first experience. I didn't do any research, obviously, but this came like Doctor Who was a hit after sort of the second episode. The Dalek story, which this is based on, was big. Did this film play internationally? Like, was this movie at drive-ins in the States, or was it only in the UK? Or do you know? Like, was it an international release? I imagine it probably was, because it feels like maybe they were trying to appeal to a wider audience. But I don't know. Like, was it only because most people would probably know this story if it played in England, since it was like this is 2 years after that first season, so it's sort of Doctor Who's sort of blown up already.
Right. From what I can see, I can only see things about the video releases later, so it came out later. Hair of the Hound says it definitely screened in Europe. I wonder if it went. When we say international, let me just clear up. When we talk about international,
anything else,
U.S. It just means the U.S. We're Americans. That's a good point. So it could have been everywhere, and the BBC being in England, UK. So maybe it is a lot of people's. I'm just guessing here, but it is. My point is these moments, and these characters that we have at this point seen for 2 years, getting translated to a big screen, you still, even though you get these differences in the way that they're portrayed, or even the whole characteristics of them, relationships, you still get some of these iconic moments just translated to the big screen, which is super fun.
Yeah. One of and sticking with sort of the story and what they changed and what they kept a lot of the stuff that I felt like also just doesn't make any sense or didn't work in the original. Like the doctor's whole plan where the doctor's like, hey, what are these things called? You mean the mirrors? You got any more mirrors? Give me all of them. I want to waste your time. And they go through this whole thing with the mirrors while they have this other, like they have other people risking their lives to go in the other way. And then the doctor's like gets this brilliant idea to like do a brute force attack against the Dalek force. Just everyone slaughtered. Like it doesn't work out. And he ends up getting captured. It accomplishes nothing.
Nothing.
But there's this whole thing was like mirrors, eh? How many more of these do you have? Like, and all the time people spent, like, you know, gathering the mirrors, and for what?
Right.
For what, Dan? But they kept that part.
Yeah, that's the important part.
And they kept like the Thal dude that was like not really a team player, and he was like, they're everywhere, man. Like he's the Bill Paxton Aliens character.
Game over, man.
And they do that thing where I think it's worse in the movie when he goes back and he's afraid, and they're not encouraging him. The other Thal that's supposed to be a good guy is kind of a dick.
Oh, no,
and so
right.
he runs and jumps, and it almost looks like that other guy kind of elbows him off.
He's just like, oops.
Right? Like, they don't reach down to try to help him. I mean, Ian does, but Ian,
being the klutz that he is, he's tied off. Ian's his anchor. A guy makes the jump. He sees he's going to fall. He falls. Ian just goes big eyes and doesn't brace himself, and he almost goes over the edge.
And then he almost goes, and then the guy does like all of a sudden he's heroic, and he's going to kill himself. And then he falls like 3 feet. He's like, "Hey guys!" It's like,
I'm totally fine.
Okay, it's fine.
I'm cool. Wow, we're really jumping around though.
Well, we could start at the beginning. So we have the we already talked about a gentleman caller, first date. You get the impression that they know them, like the little little Susan's already aware of the boyfriend.
Susie.
Yeah, because the guy's like the guy, Doctor Who's like, who's coming over? And she's like, it's your boyfriend. And then he's like, ooh. And he's like into it in a weird sort of way. And then, you know, they end up in the petrified forest. And then it's just basically the same thing that we did.
It's a lot of the same. It's just the beyond the character changes. It's the re-envisioning of it on a larger scale, in a bigger budget. So
radiation sickness they get. They have to get the drugs.
The whole thing kicks off when Doctor Who takes Ian out to see the invention. Susie is there. They're going through it all, and then Barbie comes running in. I'm calling her Barbie because she is not Barbara. She is Barbie.
No, she's a different
hot pants with big bouffant hair, all made up, and she is all horned up and jumps right onto Ian. It is the doctor blames Ian for hitting the lever. Nope. It was her loins that knocked the lever over.
They're trying to get that sweet action going.
Sweet action in front of her grandfather and sister. That's the hottest action.
Just to do a big detour, I'm going to detour this whole conversation. Great. But watching this movie, it made me think like they could really just do a Doctor Who movie every 2 years, and I don't know why it was something nice about having a bigger budget and doing, instead of just playing a episode in the theater, but do like an actual movie, like James Bond. It could come out every couple years.
Would you have wanted these movies to be like this, where they reinterpreted an existing story and made some changes to it, or would you rather have them every few years take an existing story, characters as they are, and translate it?
No, I would kind of rather them reinterpret it. Stick with like I just watched Casino Royale. I like Bond films, and I watched Casino Royale again like and it sticks with James Bond, but obviously it's his first mission and everything, and they make changes, and I feel like that's the only way. If you try to stick with every piece of continuity,
you'll miss so much.
It just gets too heavy and it falls apart. So I'm okay if they were to do, if they did a movie, it wouldn't have to be exactly about if that's what you're asking. Like, it wouldn't have to be the same cast and all of that kind of stuff. It doesn't have to be an extending. I would extending the season, but it could be like get a really good writer and director and have their interpretation of like a good Doctor Who story.
Right.
for
I guess it would have to
film.
work as its own standalone thing.
Yeah,
so you couldn't have so much reference to canon and other things you'd have to know about it in order for things to make sense. So in that sense, it would have to be its own little contained universe, which this was.
It's such like a deep and rich property. Like you see all this stuff with the Marvel movies, and they're working off all the history of Marvel comics and everything, and they're able.
Right.
But you could really do that. I feel like with Doctor
pull out
Who.
individual things. Yeah.
Yeah, and sure. even if the movie universe has a continuity, because I feel like that's why the Marvel movies are so successful, is they do build off of each other. Is you can do that with film. I mean, maybe because people are always complaining about the damn show. It would be like maybe try just a couple of films. Yeah. You have a whole movie on Davros. You just have like
you would
just go nuts, and then it'd be terrible.
I think you need to just write a spec script for it, and we'll get that into production.
But anyway, let's get back.
Okay,
to
Ian hits the lever that kicks them off into the future. They land on Skaro, and you're right. From this point forward, it's other than the character differences being what they are, the story is very much the same.
They look at the map. Even the doctor, he looks at the map too of the stars and figures out how many that exact scene happened with Hartnell. Yep. One of the things I like, speaking of that part where they divide themselves and they're like, we're going to go through the caves or whatever, and you have that scene with the water and Ian, who's already been punched in the face. There's radiation everyone's dying of whatever, the fallout from the war. They've had their medicine, but Ian immediately puts this stagnant water in his eyes, and that
my God,
completely irradiated.
They're in the middle of this stinking swamp, and the first thing he sees some stagnant water. He's like, I could really go with a good washing up, and just face full into the water. It's great.
And then there's just like a really extreme close up of like all the weird microorganisms that go into his bloodstream, and then all of a sudden he becomes that like bald, weird white guy from Prometheus, and he's throwing. But anyway,
so one of the biggest, I guess it's not really a big change, but we get into the petrified forest, and that's a lot of the same stuff, but it just feels creepier. It has a great
I thought that was
feeling
cool.
to it. That was a lot of fun. They see the city, so they have this whole sequence of them deciding, we've come to a big city on an unknown planet. We don't know anything where we are. Let's split up. And they all decide to go in different directions.
And even before that, though, right? So even before that moment, they're outside. They're in the petrified forest. Little Susie who is accosted by a mysterious hand that then drops the medicine and leaves. And then later she meets.
First? I thought that was later. That happened.
Maybe
right away.
I can't remember.
I don't remember.
I feel like that happened first, right? Before the city, and then they all go back to the. Doesn't matter. My point just being, when she sees this guy later, he's like, hey, I tried to give you the medicine before. It's like, why didn't
What's wrong with you, creep?
What his plan was just to touch her on the shoulder, run. Like, it was like, just hang out and say, hi, my name is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don't tap her from behind, and don't make her feel like an idiot for running away from a stranger in the woods. So they go to the city. They have this whole drawn out sequence of Ian stuck in a video game trap where he has to hit the lever and get through the door at the same time.
Yes.
What he needed was a big boulder. You push the boulder on, like, it's obvious. You hit the triangle button and you pull the left stick.
And I believe that is from the show too, right? That whole sequence, I think, was also in the original one of the 5 parts or whatever.
You do know this, that when we watch a story, I immediately forget it as soon as it. Anyway, so they have that. So we get into the Dalek City, and this is the biggest change. One of the big changes is the Daleks have an incredible sense for sculpture and modern art.
Yeah,
you wouldn't expect that from the Daleks, but they just have exquisite taste.
Well, I'm assuming that is
the geometric patterns.
The original people had built those wonderful things, and now they're just occupying.
Could be,
yeah.
I mean, just like from the art direction throughout, we have these huge sets, just gigantically tall. That must have been all practical, obviously. On the walls, they have these twisted, shiny metal sculptures along the walls that don't seem like they're functional at all. But just the art direction is very specific, very of its time, and totally different than you would have gotten on the show. Not just because it's color, but just the scope is different, and just a different vision of the entire thing, which is fun. But then you get to see the Daleks.
Yeah. And speaking of
honest, to see them in color for the first time, and so many of them.
Yeah.
And the build quality was better.
Just the color nature of itself, like that Technicolor look and that feel and how bright and vibrant. Like, I love the look of the film just from the way that, the coloring was done.
I was trying to find, it didn't actually say if it was in, not that this matters at all, but that it was in Technicolor, which is a
oh yeah, I mean, I'm just throwing that out there.
No, I know.
That's
the
case.
It's like Kleenex. It's a kind of a generic, but
yeah.
I didn't see anything in the credits about how it was filmed, and I don't see anything anywhere else. But anyway.
You get a couple of like Dalek things that get established that I guess is no longer the case, right? So and this was in the original story too, that they're in those travel machines because there's so much radiation around and they can't leave, otherwise they'll die.
Right.
And then at one point, they're trying to get the medicine because they want to be able to get out of it. If that had worked out and it was just those weird slug people running around, that would have been. Yeah. But once they leave Skaro, they stay in the travel machines, but
right.
There shouldn't be radiation on those planets. I guess they just really like them.
Like you said, that's not unique to this movie. That's just the way that it has happened.
Yeah, at some point, I guess they just stopped talking about that.
Right.
They
kept the same thing where they are basically bumper cars and they have to stay on the electrostatic metal tracks that they can run on. So that whole sequence was almost exactly the same. So we
so much of it's the same.
When they
elevator
get captured,
sequence.
Yeah, the elevator sequence is the same. When they get captured and they decide that they're going to use the coat that Susie had gotten from, was it? It was one of the spiders from Mars. Yeah, spiders from Mars.
What they should have did was they should have got the coat and then did the old. Little Susie gets on someone's shoulders and they look like a taller businessman.
Giant, they get scared and run away.
They could have walked up. I'm here to inspect the Dalek station.
Yeah, that would have worked out great. Anyway, so it was nice to see that reinterpretation of the scenes we have already experienced before, but with these different characters. The one thing that was strange though is how much Barbara really enjoyed playing with the gruel pudding in her hands. Just kept on.
Yeah, I love the food. The food on the tray was great. When you see the food, how appetizing, and she's just holding it, and they just splatter it on the. And I believe that was the same too from the original. They did the
same
food.
Exact thing. They pull out the creature, and then somehow Ian can still.
They stick Ian, and he talks through with the voice, and then they abandon Ian. They're like, the elevator's here, we can't wait. And then somehow the elevator manages to come down. I did like how
pieces that worked before though, so I'm glad they kept that. Yeah.
It was because it was more parts. I think it was 5 parts, right? Or 4 or 5 or 6 parts, whatever. It felt long.
20 parts. Yes. Yeah.
I felt like the elevator scene was so much nicer here because it was a lot quicker. I remember, didn't we have to watch like elevators going all the way up and then there's shots of the elevators? So like it was nice to just sort of get through that. You just get a scene where they abandon Ian, they don't care, and then there's like a cut and the door opens. He's like, "Hey guys, I made it." And they're like, "All right, you're our best friend."
Okay, one thing that we haven't really talked about is the major change to the Thals. The Thals are just glamour pusses, and I don't know what was going on there. Like
I can't remember what they looked like originally.
They did not all have super long eyelashes and tiger
not so much eye
makeup.
Yeah,
no, not at all.
That was a big improvement. I thought
kind of the same, but like they all had the same kind of bowl cuts. They all had this shiny platinum hair. It was strange, and I live in an era now of gender fluidity, and RuPaul's Drag Race is one of my favorite shows. All this stuff. It is really progressive in 1965 that this was. I don't know what to think about it. It was so distracting. It was so distracting.
Well, you would just have scenes. You would have scenes where the Doctor was walking around their camp, and in the background, there's just like teen Thals just chilling and smoking, and it looked like somebody's passing another person a bong. Like everyone's just like chilling. Like there was a lot of them, and none of them talk. You only get dialogue from one guy, right? And maybe two. Yeah. Obviously. Oh no, then the other 2 guys.
Then there's the older guy. Yeah.
For the most part, they're just background dressing. So they were sort of an interesting
especially the women in this. Like the female Thals didn't say a word.
No, they didn't
even when the one. I mean the mirror thing that I found it so funny that there's one Thal woman holding a mirror for the other one to just lightly stroke her own hair. Yeah. And she kept like moving, like this woman didn't know how to hold a mirror and just kept moving it around. No. Like the other woman would grab her hand to hold it back. No, I'm stroking my hair. I need to be able to see it. Very strange.
Yeah, I remember the original Falls. They had like open vests, right? Yes. That was their whole fashion. There was a lot of chest here. You had to see a lot of chest, but they had. Yeah, I don't think they had any eye makeup, and I don't remember if they were all blonde.
This is very Rocky from Rocky Horror Picture.
No, yeah, they were all blonde because I think.
Yes.
I remember making a joke about the Aryans. They were Aryan race, but they weren't trying to do genocide. In a switch
that we know of.
That we're aware of.
Yeah, I mean,
it was good. I mean, did we cover everything on this thing?
The Daleks were interesting. So one thing that really bothered me is how slowly they spoke. The cadence of the Daleks was just
too
slow and drawn out. But I did see something, the small amount of research that I did do. Apparently, the director of this film wasn't super familiar with Doctor Who at all.
Okay, makes sense. Put him on.
Didn't realize that the lights on the Daleks only are supposed to flash when that Dalek is speaking. It was a way to help the audience know which Dalek is talking. Yep. If you look at this, there's just random lights bleeping all over the place. All the Daleks have their lights bleeping. So it seemed like when they were doing the dubbing of the voices later, they were trying to sync it up with the lights in some cases, which is why sometimes it's just excruciatingly slow. And other times they were talking like a normal Dalek would talk. But that just it just bugged the hell out of me. That just took so long to get through. Anytime they spoke, it was craziness. But they looked awesome. I love when this is towards at the end, once they blow up the whole thing, they have the countdown going. They blow up the whole control system. Barbie is going around making sure they're all dead, and she's lifting up their helmets and the eye stalks. And maybe it's just the sound effect or whatever, but it sounded like really heavy metal. Like it just felt more substantial, these machines. Like maybe the actual production just had some more money behind it, and they're higher quality Daleks. It looked great. It looked
I thought we were going to see more of the Daleks themselves. You do get that shot of like the hand crawling out because at one point, when they first empty the garbage can, they like reach in and grab the thing and just throw it in the trash, like and then you see the hand. But then they never really. That's sort of it that you get for their actual.
That was kind of cool. I mean, you didn't really need it any more than that unless they were going to change the story entirely and make those little mutants take over. But there were some other changes in the Daleks too. We have some Daleks have the plunger attachment, but then others have a little pincher grabber thing. At one point used to choke Ian, which was kind of fun.
Poor Ian gets choked.
They have the little pinchers, and they're instead of shooting a ray, they shot a fire extinguisher gas at people instead. And one has an acetylene torch, which is kind of cool. I guess that's from the show as well. But I was also reading about this originally. So it would have been too expensive for them to do the rays, so that like they had in the show on the film to show that the people are getting zapped and killed. So they wanted to have something. They were going to have them shoot fire, but they were afraid that was going to be too scary for kids. So instead of shooting fire, they shoot a fire extinguisher just to have something to react to.
Yeah, anyway, the fire extinguisher bit was it was fine.
It worked fine. Like I thought at first, when the first time they shoot Ian with the fire extinguisher, I thought, oh, that's another weapon they have. They just have like a nerve agent thing, but like no, that's their main weapon. Instead, they just totally changed that part. Didn't matter, small thing, but otherwise being pretty faithful to the way the Daleks are represented in the show, which is kind of cool. What else?
One note I saw while we were talking, people were commenting.
Yes.
And Creator Talks podcast, which I was going to plug later. That's guy Chris Calloway. I thought it was so right. I said your name. Mentioned that there was a double feature in the U.S. I guess with Night of the Living Dead. Well, that would be great to see.
That'd be amazing.
Daleks and Night of the Living Dead at the same time.
Yeah.
So I guess it did play here. So there you go. Thank you for
audiences then would have had absolutely no frame of reference, really, generally speaking, to what Doctor Who was. So this would have been their only attack.
Yeah, no, it feels like that. It feels like an old 60s type sci-fi movie, a little goofy. Not really scary at all. There's no like I don't know. There's no like. I guess that the Daleks are supposed to be scary, but it's not.
Right.
Doesn't
I guess
feel
maybe we're
too
just
much
used
like a
to
monster
'em.
movie.
Right. I mean, I love the production value of it. There's some strange things that are just artifacts of the time. Like, they split up and they're going to try to make their way into the Dalek City, and Barbara and Ian and a couple of Thals go over the mountain in the back way. They're going to go through the caves.
Oh, speaking of, I thought the map.
size.
Yeah, I was gonna say the mat work, like
Yes,
that mountain scene was fantastic. Like, I thought the
Beautiful.
art direction and the way that
Looked
they
beautiful.
did those, it really felt epic, and that was great. Yeah, especially that
That
mountain
was
scene,
exactly
that really
what I was
long
getting
shot.
to. It looked beautiful when it was still, and you see them in the foreground climbing up a mountain. The only thing that ruined it is that their proportions were totally wrong. So that by the time they got to the top, they were going up a 20-foot cliff as opposed to climbing up an entire mountain. But the mat work itself, not just
it
in
looks great.
That scene's the most obvious because it's just so vast in the way the effect works. But you also get that in other scenes in the forest. You have this kind of dark background that just implies that it goes on forever. Like, really very nice work for that stuff. And in those bright pastel-y colors that just work for this era so well. Absolutely.
Now, I know there's a follow-up to this movie, right? So we get Peter Cushing again. There's one more movie, which I think we're going to review that when we end the podcast, which honestly is like 3 years.
Like next week? Are we going to do that next week? Or
no, not next week.
No.
That's the Dalek invasion of Earth. But I wish that they had just done a different bad guy. Like, why have to do? I would like to see this crew, and as far as I know, I think it's only little Susie and Peter Cushing that stay. I think we lose Barbie and Ian for the next movie. But I wish we had done something other than Daleks. I'm a little burnout on that.
But I mean, on the other hand, they are the most iconic.
They put the asses in the seats, Dan.
They were
they were.
I mean, they're huge. They were a huge deal. This is why Terry Nation, right, was the creator of this. Has all that sweet Dalek money into his estate forever. I mean, I don't think there's a whole lot more to talk about here. It was the same story we've seen before. It was a lot of fun to see it re-envisioned in a different way. A lot more glamorous with the blue eyeshadow. I would love to see
more eyeshadow.
Have the eyeshadow as well with his really long. No, I'd like to see Cushing take on. I'd love to see him doing other stories besides the movie we're going to do later.
Yes.
I would just love to see him as the Doctor that we know from the story.
So you want to sub out like Hartnell for Cushing?
I mean, as much as I do love Hartnell, because as much as I love him because I respect the work that he did to create the character, and he has his moments, especially as his run as the Doctor goes on and becomes a more complex character. I do enjoy that very much. Yes, I kind of would have liked to have seen what the whole shebang would have started off with had it been Peter Cushing from the beginning instead of Hartnell. It just would have been a different feeling to this Doctor.
Yep.
Though maybe it would have been more similar to some of the other Doctors we get later because he has that inherent warmth that you only get flashes of from Hartnell, which are the points where that makes it even more poignant when you see through the gruff exterior. So maybe it wouldn't have worked as well, but I would love to have seen him try. I would like to see. So if anyone wants to do some fan art and do complete recreations with Peter Cushing instead, we have the technology. Just get into that, please, and send it to us.
Should we go through? How much time do we have left? Does it show how long we've been recording?
Yeah, we're running up onto the end. Well, we have about 15 minutes left on this stream. But if you want to cut it here, we can jump over to.
Before we kill the stream, we should read some of the comments in this because they'll be dead when we start a new one. So is there anyone saying anything?
As a reminder, we're going to cancel this stream. Not cancel. We're going to stop the stream, save it out, and then start another one. If you guys want to rejoin and have any questions for us, we'll do more
someone
Q&A
said that
directly.
Someone in the chat said I should be canceled. It's funny you said the word canceled as I read the word canceled.
It was
whenever that happens, I know that we're in a simulation.
It's because you called it the Who family, and we have established that obviously that is what they're called because he is Doctor Who. It must be Germanic, I guess. I don't
Mr.
know.
Who. Yeah,
no, it's a Doctor Who. I went to doctor school, so. Oh, boy.
Where are their parents? Maybe you find out where their parents are in Doctor Who.
That's what the whole next story is about. Yeah.
Dalek invasion of Earth. Now, Dalek invasion of Earth, that's also a story. So is the second one also another retelling of an existing serial?
Let's find out when we get there.
Probably. Which is kind of a bummer.
Well, This was fun.
Too
So
bad it's
I'll
not
have fun
a
with that
new
one too.
adventure, but we'll find out.
Well, you know what? I think we're
good. Did you
kind
see any comments? I don't want to ignore anyone's comments. All right, let's start here. I'm going to go all the way back. We have You Sound Like a Cyberman. We dealt with that, Dan. Yep.
Let's
Normal.
just do quick
We're all
edits
good.
here.
Sounds good. Everybody's good. How do I get a sticker? We talked about that. Rick Wakeman. Someone doesn't believe that our sound effects are not electronic.
Oh, no.
Then I get canceled.
You see behind the curtain now.
Yep. Always a good sign when I'm laughing out loud. Thank you. Always wish Peter Cushing had to run on TV. So that's just what you said, Dan,
same.
as the doctor.
So
in agreement there. Doctor Who is the worst babysitter. We talked about Doctor Who, sending kids into the woods to get drugs. Peter Cushing did a great job of being William Hartnell, a William Hartnell type doctor and less grumpy, a very different role for him. Yeah, I would 100% agree. And then we talk about the movie, which we talked about. That's something about mirrors. Sure, they do. How do you think they get? Okay, they're talking about the mirrors. Someone talking about Ziggy Stardust.
So much about the makeup. Yeah, that makeup's just fantastic.
Okay, the last
it really was just like.
Yeah, the last bit was this is great. How often do you? I can't read. How often do you guys live stream? We really don't. We just do on special occasions. So this is our 100th episode. Dan and I have been doing this since 2015, when the world was good. Did you ever notice the world was sort of normal, and then we started the show and everything just freaking fell apart, at least in the States.
This is really our fault.
Yeah, it's we're sorry. But yeah, we only do this special occasion. So we'll do this for the 100th. We did it for the 50th, and we'll probably do it at least one more time. Right? I mean, it's fine. All right, so we're gonna kill this, right?
Wait, actually, no. Let me change plans. We're here.
We're ending the show,
and we still have a few minutes left on the stream. So if you guys have any questions or comments that you would want us to answer live right now, feel free to type them in.
We do have some emails. We got a couple of emails. I know. I wanted to properly plug Creator Talks podcast, which I'll do on the second half.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you cancel this one, and we'll go.
No, I mean, you said you got some minutes. So anybody in here that wants to ask something, is that what you're saying, Dan?
Yeah, I am saying that. So go ahead and type those in. While we're at that, Eric, did you want to go through that email now while people are? Yeah, exactly right.
You want me to do the email now? Okay, I will do the email now. We got a letter from John D. Congratulations on the 100th show. Thank you, John. Good day from Australia. Hello, Dan and Eric. It is a fantastic achievement to reach this milestone of 100 podcasts of such high quality and content. Thank you very much. I've enjoyed everyone. Fondly reminiscing with you guys about a show very dear to my heart. We absolutely agree, and thank you for the kind words. I have left reviews for your show on iTunes Store Australia. Thank you. And I have told some mates who also love Doctor Who about the show, and they started listening. That's the most important thing, is telling people in real life who may like it, because that's the only way that anything.
It's the only way that we get out of our contract.
It's the only way the good guys are going to win, is if we tell people
more of us listen
about good things. Yep.
I
recall my dad taking me and my brother to see the Dalek double bill at the local Odeon cinema. And there was a red Dalek in the foyer with tall red lights and a claw reaching out to us. Like, that is super cool. Keep up the fantastic work. Looking forward to the next 100 podcasts. Oh, God, could you imagine? 200? I don't know. We're going to make that. We'll have a coldie for you here in South Wales. Yeah, and I do regret not drinking for this show. So if you're drinking now, God bless you. And then there's a review here, which I will read. Fun and good memories. This is a great, fun show filled with good-natured banter, as well as reviewing classic Doctor Who with a fresh eye. Having seen the series since Patrick Troughton, this is an enjoyable, nostalgic journey through the classic Doctor Who stories, reanimated fondly by Dan and Eric. Highly recommended. Well, thank you very much.
5 stars.
Always nice. 5 stars. That's what I like. How much time do we have? Can we do another?
So we got some questions here. Uncle Beard says, who would you recast as film Doctor Who? Susie Who and Barbie Who now? Who we do as Susie Who and Barbie Who? Oh, dang.
Okay, so we have to pick. Okay, for this particular movie,
Yeah,
it's going to be this movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to have. Who are we going to have? It's got to be someone. I would always like to see Steve Coogan as somehow as Doctor Who. I don't know if that works for this story or that combination.
Sure.
Obviously, it would be probably a little funnier, but I've always wanted to see that. Who would you do? Susie? So Susie as a child. What you keep that book by the side of your bed about young Hollywood, where you have because
right, I have my subscription.
It's when you're in a liberal, we all meet under a pizza place, and it's great. We get. Who would be a good? Seriously, who would be a good like curmudgeonly old
would be really hard.
doctor?
Well, the only thing I could think of for Barbara right now is Zendaya, because I've just seen the Dune trailer.
We didn't even talk about the Dune trailer.
Can we just talk about Dune instead? Guys, we're done. Let's talk about Dune.
God, I've seen it so many times.
Crap, I can't wait for that.
And I can't get enough of it.
I'm sorry. I think the casting
I'm never good
for
at this
Susie. No, I'm not either. I think the casting for Susie was impeccable. The character was great, and that child actor sold it so perfectly. So I can't imagine another person taking that role.
Yes, I can. We go back in time, and we get the actress that played Small Wonder, and she's going to be the new Susie as a robot.
Sure.
The dad is going to be Hannibal from the A-Team, and he's going to have a cigar the whole time. No, let's do Peter Falk as Columbo
with the one eye.
With the one eye, with a little Susie as a Small Wonder, and then Ian would be who is the
well, it just should be
Charles Nelson Riley. Nelson Riley.
I would be 100% on Charles Nelson Riley. No. If we're gonna do Charles Nelson Riley,
Peter Falk, Charles Nelson Riley, and Small Wonder.
Perfect.
Yes, Alan Partridge as a Time Lord would be perfect.
If you had better casting, please let us know, because obviously we're bereft of ideas. Hair of the Hound says, check out the new movie-style Dalek action figures from Character Options. They're gorgeous.
Is that the Hair of the Hound? You posted on Twitter, I think, a bunch of figures that looked really cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the same ones that he's referencing there, but
I love
these
they are the iconic the Dalek design, and they just look so high quality in this movie. Loved it.
We don't see enough who's the Dalek? Who's the Dalek enemy?
You gotta read this comment there. This is great. Columbo who? Just one more thing, Davros.
Totally. And then you see the Daleks. Yeah, you see the Daleks commit some kind of crime, and then slowly he's like, you got to give. Yeah, I love country music, and then he wants to know why the radio station was changed to a classical station instead of country station.
Wow, that's really specific. Good job.
Yeah, I've been rewatching Columbo. Like on here, you can get Peacock, which is free, which is I think Comcast streaming. But you can watch Rockford. So I go between the Rockford Files and Columbo, and my wife just makes fun of me that I'm this old man that just sits there and watches Columbo. I love it. I love it.
Hey, something that soothed the nerves. I think it's fantastic.
I should have dressed up like one of the Thals today with one of those, because he's got the cape and that really heavy blue eyeshadow. But I was trying to say something before. What is the enemy of the Daleks that are like the disco queens? That are awesome. What are they? The Mohegan Suns? No, it's not the Mohegan Suns. The Moanas, the Movians. It's something with
Mandalorian.
The Mandalorian.
It's the Mandalorian.
The Movellans.
Yeah. Thank you.
Why don't we see more of that? I never understood. Whenever, if you're gonna do a Dalek story, fine, but at least
you should include that.
Include them. I feel like we only got them a handful of times in the classic series. I feel like the new series, they showed them. There was one story, right, where you saw them walk by in the background or something, but it was it. What is that? Did you do some kind of eye makeup? Well, what is happening to Dan's face?
Woo.
All right.
Pretty eyelashes.
Fair enough. So anyway, let's kill this stream, and then we'll get back into the other side. Are we good? So we don't even need to do a second?
I think we caught it all, guys. So make sure, let's just wrap it up. Make sure you follow us on Twitter.
There was no Twitter comments or anything. I don't want to.
Oh, no.
Before we go, I would encourage you all to check out the Creator Talks podcast. I mentioned it before, especially it's mostly, I would say, and if I'm mischaracterizing this, please correct me in the comments, because the host is here. Mostly for comic book people. So you get a lot of comic artists, really good. It's great. He's a great interviewer. So you get a lot of comic stuff. But he did interview Paul Cornell, that Doctor Who fans will know, way back in 2000 and something, 15 or 16. So it seems like Paul Cornell doesn't like to talk too much about the old stuff. So they do touch on, I think, a little bit of human nature and some of his other Doctor Who things. But they mostly talk about at the time he was writing a Doctor Who comic. But I would encourage you to go to Apple Podcasts and type in Creator Talks podcast, and I'll post the link to it in this show because I'll link directly to the Paul Cornell one. But if you like comics at all, it's a really good interview show.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, and he's a listener of the show, so I would like to do a little plug.
Well, that's awesome, and thank you guys for joining us on the special 100th episode.
Yeah, man.
I think we're running out of time here, so I want to make sure we get this in. Please follow us on Twitter at TODW Show. Same on Instagram. I cannot wait to make the GIFs for this one.
Oh,
Jeez,
you're gonna have
so
some
much
great
fun.
gifts. But while we're plugging things,
oh boy,
hey now, you got to follow Dan and I. So I'm E Grissom and Dan is Dan JNJ on Twitter because I've been stuck at 850 followers for years.
I don't care about my follower count.
I'm at 860. I got to get to 1,000. I got to get right.
Sure you do.
That's fine. I'm basing. Who decided that we were going to have metrics to how good we feel about ourselves? What a horrible society. But follow. I should be. Let's get us up there. Yeah.
More importantly, go to your iTunes store. Leave a good review for us. That would be great. Help other people find out about us. If you want to send us an email, if you want to send us audio of the sound effects when we hit the button, you get mixed into the overall mix for our 100th episode special. Please send an audio recording of you making mouth sounds. Gross.
Yes.
To theolddoctorwhoshow@gmail.com.
And do it soon because I gotta edit this thing. And if you want one of these stickers, PO Box 2131, Red Bank, New Jersey 07701, and I'll get them out to you.
That would be awesome.
And I usually throw in some other stickers and stuff with it, so you get it.
And order all of Eric's comic books.
Yeah, order my books.
Get them from your local comic shop.
Just do it.
Great. I got nothing else to plug, so who cares?
Yeah, we're good.
Folks,
we're good.
Apologies
if I missed so much. Yeah, apologies if we missed anyone's feedback. I feel like we probably heard from other people.
It's just time. There's no reason to go to another one. So thank you, folks. You're the best.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think we're done.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, have some.